how might Washington's latest tariff decisions on Philippine goods, now escalated to 20%, influence the broader US-ASEAN trade dynamics and the potential for a strengthened intra-regional economic bloc?
Well, I mean, they are. There is
I'm sorry, Professor Salamoni. My question goes to Mr. Fursley. Mr. Fursley, how do you think Washington's latest tariff decisions that have reached 20% now influence the broader US-ASEAN trade dynamics and the potential for a strengthened intra-regional economic bloc?
So I think, to use an American 1950s Hollywood metaphor, the suspense in the drama is very limited because really President Marcos Jr. just landed in Washington, D.C. He's staying in Washington, I think, for 3 days, right? And he's under pressure. And I think the outcome of the negotiations is very likely concessions, many concessions by the Philippines to America. And I think in the end, we'll hear that they signed a trade deal, and it's not 20+%, but it's only 7 or 9 or 10% in exchange for a series of concessions which the Philippines will need to make, and they have no choice because, like I said earlier, Vietnam, Singapore, Indonesia already, quote unquote, betrayed the ASEAN solidarity, and Vietnam, Singapore and Indonesia already signed trade deals on their own with America without consulting even their fellow ASEAN member states. So the Philippines have no choice. One more reason why the Philippines have no choice is that we are entering a new era called the age of geoeconomics. Before President Trump entered the White House 6 months ago, the world was very different, including in the first Trump presidency 8 years ago, because in the first Trump presidency 8 years ago, Trump's wings were clipped. He didn't have the majority within his own party. His own party was controlled by neoconservatives and neoliberals, so he couldn't deploy the economic nationalism he believes in. The world changed completely now because he controls firmly the Republican Party. So to make a long story short, Trump has a mandate to implement fiercely an economic nationalist and protectionist policy. And here it's interesting because he doesn't care much about old military alliances. It's true that America has an age-old military alliance with countries like the Philippines or Japan or South Korea in Asia, or countries like Germany or Italy in Europe. And he couldn't care less. What Trump showed in the past 5 or 6 months is, regardless of long-standing, strong military strategic alliances, even if it's about, facing Russia or China or whatever, Trump's put business first because we have entered a new era, the age of geoeconomics. And in that new era, the wall separating on the one hand the world of diplomacy, military alliances, and on the other hand, the world of finance and trade, that wall has collapsed. And now we have two giants, America and China, playing a very new game. It's called geoeconomics. It's a merger, a complete merger of finance, the economy, industry, trade, military issues rolled into one. And so if Trump cannot get financial and economic and industrial concessions from countries like the Philippines or South Korea or Japan, even though they are important military allies with US bases, he's going to squeeze them and pressure them regardless of military or diplomatic niceties or friendship.
Yes. Professor Salamoni, you've mentioned that these tariffs imposed on the Philippines might be in a way also targeting China. Now, how might China, observing all these tensions, what sort of opportunities might Beijing seize to bolster its economic influence in the Philippines and other Asian nations, potentially altering the regional balance of power?
Yeah. President Trump, the whole world consists of energy, money, business, food, and water. And now President Trump, when he comes to United States, and when he say America is first, he means that he can collect as much as resources and money from the other country to really make them weaker or slightly weaker in business than America itself. Now we come to China here. China is the first or the biggest country which can compete in technology with America. And this is a very important issue here, because today we live in the technology, and whoever control technology and energy, it will be the bigger. That is why President Trump has tried to control the Southwest Asian country and communicate, also controlling now in the Middle East, controlling the Gulf State area, because the Gulf State area has the most important energy in the whole world, which it has a crude oil and it has a gas. And that's why Trump has influenced those Gulf State area to pay him or to give him 5.1 trillion in order, in my opinion, it is not for economic development, but in order to really for the safety of those countries, and by using Israel, okay, as is the power which it can hit anybody in that area. Mm-hmm. This is the change today. Come now to China. China, they are waiting and seeing what is going on. And China has a very big, a big alliance with Russia today. And that's why you have now to do the BRICS, which is being established today between China and Iran. And they have China and Russia, Iran, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia, Emirates, Brazil, and the Argentina. Those are the one which it's come into the force in order to try to really take the monopoly of the oil, of the dollar from the whole world, and the IMF control of those countries, which they try to force them and use their weakness, financial weakness, and use their political to force them to do policy which is going to suit Trump and suit the United States, and nothing doesn't suit anybody else.
Yes.